Hi, and welcome to another video from wptoolkit.com. Today I want to take a look at backing up your site, as it's one of the biggest and simplest mistakes that new bloggers make. It should really be your first step in keeping all the hard work and effort that you put into your site safe. But obviously remembering to do it is a pain and sucks up time, so you really need it to be automated so that you don't have the opportunity to forget. Now, by far the best plugin for this that I've found over the last decade or so that I've been blogging is called Backup Buddy. It is a paid plugin costing $150 per year for unlimited sites, but in a moment I'll tell you how you can get it for free. First though, let's have a look through how Backup Buddy makes it super easy to make sure your site is always backed up. Okay, once you've installed the plugin, you simply click on the link for it in the menu here and it'll bring up the wizard. Now, first of all, you do want to make sure that the email address you use is a real one, because if there are any errors or failures when it's running an automated backup, you want to know about that. That's pretty important. Secondly, there is the option to put in a password for backing up and migrating, or restoring and migrating your backups. That's just to make sure that nobody else gets into your blog and restores an earlier backup or something like that. So just that level of security, which is pretty important. Then we have the destination for our backups and how often they're going to run. Now I'm going to leave those as the basic settings because I'll show you how we actually change those in a moment or two. That's robo formatting me if I want to save my password there. Obviously you need to make sure your password is something that you're going to remember, or that you keep a note of it somewhere. The plugin will then prompt you to run a backup, just to make sure that you do have one as you've just installed the plugin. Now you can do a database only, but as it's our first backup, or your first backup, I'd really recommend that you do a complete backup. So let's click on that and click on plus. Now it's going to take a few moments to run, so I'm going to pause the video while it runs through and completes that. Well, I probably didn't need to pause that, it ran very quickly. My site, this particular site that I'm running it on, is only 100 megabytes or just under, so it's not a particularly massive site. And if we scroll down, it will show you what has been backed up, the plugins, directory exclusions if there are any, tables, posts, etc. It will show you the database has been done, the files have been zipped. Basically you can see the progress as it's going along, and you want to see all green ticks there, obviously. If there are any errors, you can download the status to see what's happened. But this has run correctly, so what I'm going to do now is click on download the backup and download a copy of that to my local computer, so I've got a local copy. Obviously that's quite important. Worst case scenario, if you have a major problem with your site, let's say your server hard disk crashes or something like that, or a hacker gets in and wipes your whole server, then you know that you've got a backup locally. This is part of the reasoning of having a plugin that will allow you to back up and store the backup files not on your server. They need to be backed up somewhere else for real security and indeed peace of mind. Now obviously running a manual backup on a regular basis just isn't practical. It's way too easy to forget. And this is where the real power of Backup Buddy kicks in, automating your backups. So let's go to remote destinations and set up where we're going to store our backups that isn't actually on our server. Now on mine it's defaulting to Dropbox because I've already got that set up. That's where I send my backups to. Let's go to add new, and you can see there are lots of options here. There's Backup Buddy's own file areas. There's Amazon S3, which is very cheap. There's Dropbox, which I use. You can even get a free account with Dropbox as well, which will probably be enough for several weeks, if not a month or two of backups, depending on the size of your site. Then you've got things like email, FTP, Google Drive, even Rackspace cloud files. Now, one point here, email is a popular choice, but you really need to consider how large your site is. If it's 100 or 200 megabytes like mine is, you may well have problems getting it through by email and it will fail. So you don't really want that happening. So make sure you know what size your site is on the backup, which you'd have seen if you've just done a manual backup, and take that into consideration when you're choosing the option that you want to use for backup. Now the important bit here is that we are storing those backups off our server somewhere else in case anything happens to our server. Again, if there's a hard disk failure or something like that, or if your site's hacked and they get at all your backups or erase all your files, you've got significant problems. As long as you've got your backups being stored elsewhere, whether it's Amazon, S3 or Dropbox, whatever it is, it's somewhere else, it's not on your server. You've got that peace of mind and security that you know you can get back to a backup. So the next thing to do once you've got your backup storage destination set up is go to schedule and actually set up how often Backup Buddy will back up your site. Now you want to give your profile a name. I'm just going to call this weekly because that's how often I'm going to do it. We then have the choice of whether we're backing up the database only or the complete full site. Generally, I'd recommend doing the full site. If you do the database only, it's not going to include images you've uploaded, extra content you've added, things like that, things that can be pretty important to your site. Just the database, really you're looking at just pages and posts, that sort of content. So I'd recommend a full backup. Obviously, you do need to be aware that's going to be larger, but it means that if you need to restore, you've got everything you need to rebuild your site. Okay, how often? Very big question. Easy answer is weekly is often enough for most people. It does depend on how often you're updating your site. If you're just updating it once or twice a week, then yeah, definitely weekly is enough. I would say it's enough even if you're posting daily. It's only if you're posting, let's say 3 or 4 times a day or something like that. If you're high volumes of postings, then you may want to go more often than weekly. But again, most people, weekly is fine. Okay, the next date and time, I'd leave that as the default unless you want to pick a specific time of the night or day to run the backup. With most servers, it shouldn't affect the speed of the site, so it's not really a big issue. As it happens, this one's 1:28 in the morning, so that's fine. Then you need to choose your remote destination. So I set up my Dropbox earlier on, and that's what I'm going to choose. So it's now going to do the backups and send them automatically to my Dropbox for me. The other option here is to delete local backup file after remote send success. I'd suggest ticking that box to keep the space on your server free, otherwise those can start racking up and taking up quite a lot of space. Enable schedule to run, yes, basically untick that if you want to pause the schedules for any reason. Then click on add new schedule, and that is your weekly backup schedule set up, automated, hands-free. You know it's been done. That's a real peace of mind that you don't have to worry about it. If anything happens to your site, you know you can go and grab that backup out of your Amazon S3 account, your Dropbox account, wherever it is, and restore your site and be back up and running really quickly. Now, obviously, Backup Buddy also has an option to restore from your backups, which also includes migrate. So if you've actually backed up a site, a different site, you can bring that backup onto a new site if you want to as well. That's the subject of a different video though, so check out our YouTube channel and you'll find a video on that as well. For an extra level of security and peace of mind, you could also set up a daily backup that just does the databases only, because they take up a lot less space and you can store those locally on the server as well. So as you've seen, Backup Buddy is easy to use and gives you all the options you need to keep your site automatically backed up on a regular basis. So if you've not got this set up yet, you really should do so before you end up needing it. Now, as one last thing, I also want to mention that we've been able to take advantage of the licensing for Backup Buddy to include it in the WP Toolkit membership. So our users get the latest version included in their membership at no extra cost. And that's just one of the dozens of premium plugins and hundreds of premium themes included in the WP Toolkit membership. Check it out for yourself when you get a moment to see how you can benefit from a WPToolkit.com membership. Thanks very much for watching.